So I was like, well, Lord, the grass looks so much greener on the other side. If she has had her faith strengthened that much by leaving the church and coming back, maybe you can do the same for me. And you know what they say when they say, be careful what you ask for? And I was like, oh God, why is it that all of these people have got these amazing testimonies when it's testimonies time, and all I've got to say is, I'm safe, I'm good, life is nothing as much has changed. Hello. Hi there. So I'm Thandi. I'm the voice behind By Thandi. I do craft videos, planning videos, and I basically teach about how you can learn how to craft and grow as a person as well. So it's not just your hand skills that will be growing, but your personal development that will be growing as well as your faith, because I have a digital planner which I use personally for my faith, which has helped me so much in terms of like realigning myself back to my Christian faith, which I had because I grew up in the particular faith. It's my mug of motivation, so it's motivating me to continue this video. Basically, so I wanted to give a short testimony about how God has been so good to me. So good, I can't even explain. And that is because I went through some really difficult times in the last half of my life. Like, I grew up in the church and I was always seeing, what can I say? So I wanted to give my testimony of how God delivered me from so much, I don't even know how to put the words, chaos, let's say. So basically, I grew up in church and I always knew about, the Bible, Jesus, God, angels, demons, the devil, you have it. I grew up around in and around that knowledge of what the world was like, and what we perceive was, and how what we perceive was different from what was actually happening. And growing up, I kind of, a desire came forth one day when I had heard a testimony in church of somebody who had never been, I can't remember if they had never been to church or if they were coming back to church having left the church previously. But I watched their testimony and I was really moved, and I was kind of like, I was in my teens back then, and I was like, oh God, why is it that all of these people have got these amazing testimonies when it's testimonies time, and all I've got to say is, I'm safe, I'm good, life is nothing as much has changed. And looking back on that that was a great place to be. But at that time, that was the thought process going through my mind as I heard this lady talk about her testimony of how Jesus brought her back to church. That was it. Jesus brought her back to him, and how that affected her life and the people in her life and around her. So I was like, well, Lord, the grass looks so much greener on the other side. If she has had her faith strengthened that much by leaving the church and coming back, maybe you can do the same for me. And you know what they say when they say, be careful what you ask for? I literally had a dream where I dreamt that Jesus was kind of like, that situation with the woman by the well. Jesus was there, I was the woman at the well, and Jesus was kind of just like, you want to go and drink the water that doesn't quench your thirst. It will never quench your thirst. But if you want to go and try, go ahead. It was kind of like those vibes that I had in that particular dream. And I remember being so shocked and scared that, wait, no, like, can I can we do take backs? And Jesus was kind of like, no, there's no take backs. And Jesus wasn't like that. I was kind of like, well, there's no takebacks. And I decided to pursue my own things when I went to university the first time, and it didn't end well for me because I ended up being diagnosed with a mental health condition at the time. And no, I wasn't diagnosed initially, but I started to recognize that I'm not quite well. I'm not feeling as well as I would, and I can't quite pinpoint my finger on it, but I think it is this. And I don't really want to seek help for it because 2010s, like, mental health wasn't like, people didn't talk about mental health as they talked about it now. Like, it wasn't a common thing. It was a very much stigmatized, serious issue that mentioning it could, at least my thought process was, mentioning it back then, if and when I completed university, would affect my ability to get a job. Just get my tea. So I didn't seek help immediately, which, guys, if you're ever feeling unwell and emotionally, spiritually, mentally, but it's like mentally, if you're ever feeling unwell and you don't know who to turn to, there are crisis lines. There's Mind, the charity in the UK. You can call 111, the NHS 111, and, you know, click on the crisis option, or the option 2, I believe it is. I don't know what option it is in your area, but basically there are people and places you can talk to, you can reach out to. And at the NHS 111 line being a good shout. Mind charity, if you can pop into a shop or anything, or just look for the online support. That is another one if you can't go and talk to people straight away. And I'm just basing the fact that you're watching this video so you have access to the internet, so you'll be able to do the things I'm suggesting that you do. So, as I was saying, so I didn't seek help out immediately. So I let that wound fester and fester, and I came back home eventually. I didn't complete my first year of uni. I came back home, and everybody could kind of tell that something's up, but we don't know what's up. So basically, I was moving around and going around, just moving, maybe staying with my auntie, doing a bit of work. And it wasn't eventually until one of my cousins was like, do you want to go back to uni? And I was like, nah, don't really want to. I was still kind of in a very depressed episode, I want to say. So nah, I don't really want to. But then eventually I went to uni, and it was one of the best decisions I made, in that I really got into and it helped me overcome some of my self-doubts that I had, that am I not smart? Am I kind of like, what happened? How could I not pass the first year of uni as an African descent of African origins? How could I not, pass school? Basically, it's one of those things. And you know, I studied, and I was studying a different course this time, and it was really going well. First year came and went, it was amazing, passed it. Second year came, but it didn't go because that wound that I had left to fester in terms of my mental health came back, or should I say the day of reckoning arrived, because the stress that was building up consistently, although it was not necessarily negative stress, it got to a point where my mind was like, no, this is the threshold of what I can hold, and you have stepped over that threshold. So I had a breakdown, and I ended up getting treated, finally seeing doctors, being treated for the condition and being diagnosed. And all of this while my relationship with God was like taking a back seat. And not because God didn't want to be involved with me in my life, but because I didn't want God involved with me in my life. Because the most irrational thoughts I would have, I think there was an irrational thought that I can't even express the words now because I don't remember, or they sound so stupid I can't even repeat myself. But it was just the most irrational thoughts that you would have, that normally if you're within yourself and you're grounded and you know who you are, they're fine. It's not a problem. You can be like, oh, that's just an irrational thought. But because my mental health was not in a good place, that was then, there was no filter between, is that irrational, is that a real thought? Things were kind of like shaky, and there was no ground level in terms of what's factual, what's real, what's not real. Kind of, I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but that's basically what I was going through. And this period lasted on and off. Like most of the times, I was in good health. I would say 14 out of the 15 years, I was in good health. But then there will be periods where I would have a mini episode. Maybe, I think I've had 3 in total in my life. 3 episodes. Hopefully, touch wood. That's such a British thing to say. But hopefully there'll be no more. But in those episodes that I had, I saw God in my life. Because I would have people commenting that, like after the first episode, when I got the help that I needed to get, I went back to normal, living my life every day, doing things, getting jobs, doing part-time stuff, moving along, living life like everybody else. And half the time I would forget that I have a mental health condition. And it was like, it was amazing in that God, even though I was being rebellious, God was still seeing me through. He was still with me. He was still watching over me. And the second episode was worse than the first. I ended up in hospital, and that was brutal, guys. I cannot even believe. I will not explain, because it was one of the most hardest experiences that I've ever experienced in my life. Being in hospital, being hospitalized for my condition, and it wasn't just brutal on me. It was obviously affected those who were around me and my family, and a hard time for everyone all around. Basically, is what was going on. And still, even though I was out of my mind, God was still there. He was still with me, and he saw to it that no harm came to me. Because people, like, if you look up mental health hospitals, they don't come with the most spick and span reputations, or there's always something that's going on that you can just go read it up and see for yourself. It's not the best place to be for anyone, but even in the belly of the valley of the shadow of death, I want to say, and it's not even a joke, God was still with me, and he was still holding my hand, even as if I was trying to be like, give me my hand, So even as I was still rebelling, still in this rebellious period, God was still with me, right? And then there was the last episode that I had, which was not, yes, I was a bit depressed, but it was not necessarily a me thing, but more the treatment plan thing that was not working well with me. And God was still with me, guys. God was still with me. Like, so many things could have gone wrong, but when I say God was still with me, I mean, like, angels were protecting me consistently. If there was a situation I can liken it to, I don't know which Bible character it was one of the prophets, whether it was Elisha or Elimelech. I can't remember which particular king was pursuing which prophet, but there was a situation where in the spiritual realm, I'm sure that I had VIP service, not because I'm great, not because I'm amazing, no, but because there were people who were praying for me. There was a church family that was praying for me. There were family who were praying for me, who made sure that, their prayers were consistent, and God heard their petitions and saw to it that this episode came in past the worst one that I've ever had in my life. far above the hospitalization that I mentioned just now, because I was at home during this period of time. And it was just a level of depression where it is, I don't know, it's almost like, you know, when people say you can be spiritually dead, the spiritual death was to the level of this person has been buried underground for many, many years. It was like that, but except now my physical was catching up to that. And it got to a point where it was just like, if God was not there, I would not be here. Not because I tried to do anything like self-harm wise or anything like that, just because of the way things were playing out. I can't even explain properly, but God knows what I'm trying to say, and hopefully you get what you're supposed to get from this testimony. And basically God saved my life in from the very tips of my hair to the toe, to the bottom of my toes. And I don't know, the only way I can explain it is that God saved my life, and he saved my life from spiritual death. You know, like, and when people talk about spiritual death, even I'm still trying to understand all of this. If your body is made, if you as a human being are made out of your body, your mind, and your spirit, or body, soul, spirit, whichever way you wanna, language, you want, mind, you wanna put it through. The way we are kind of built up is like body is where your flesh, your sinful nature resides. Mind is like your ego, who you are, and in your thinking. And your spirit is like the spiritual side of you, whether you're spiritually good, spiritually evil. There's one or the other, but there's the spirit side of things as well. And in this great controversy of earth, where, you know, you have good versus evil, right? We all see that in movies, but it's not just a film situation. It's a real life situation where we are in a spiritual war zone, where we are being fought over by the good camp, which is God, the Father, the Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit, right? And the evil camp, Satan and his goons, right? I don't know who they are, like, bro. So you've got those two camps battling over your choices, your mind, your attention, everything that is you. And when I coming back to that dream, when I felt like Jesus said to me, go and drink and see if it will quench your thirst. It's not going to. That was kind of like me leaving the good camp and going to the bad camp, basically. That was me kind of like trying at the very least anyway to do so, but failing very, very successfully, miserably. I don't know how to put it. But that's the kind of like, that's the world we live in, and that's why we see all these atrocities that we see in the world. Because the war zone is not just a physical war zone; it is a spiritual war zone as well, and it plays out on every level of existence. So yeah, that is basically. And what I was experiencing was not just a physical battlefield in terms of me battling my mental health for a period of time. It was also happening on the spiritual level, where spiritually I was dying slowly until I spiritually died. Where in spiritual death is where you like are severed, not severed, but you're separated from God. And if you're separated from God, if you're not in the camp of light, you're in the camp of darkness. And the camp of darkness, I would have to go grab my Bible, which I put away just a little while ago. But if we look, I'll look for some Bible verses and put them in the description. So if you look at all of these things, good versus evil, the works of good people, the works of evil people, and when I'm not talking about these works, I'm not talking about just outside works like me giving to charity. I'm talking about the inner thought process of how we think, what we think, and what's motivating us to think that way. And because, you know, for our, I think it was Descartes who said, I think, therefore I am. Really, truly, you think, and therefore that is who you are. On a, say, soul, spiritual level, you eat what you are, what you eat. On a physical level, on the flesh level. So you've got all of these. So if you're a human being, your sin nature is based in your flesh. You've got your soul or your mind, and then you've got your spirit, right? If you align yourself with good, so for example, I did a video earlier on today about the lamp of your eyes being the lamp of your body, which Jesus says if you focus on that lamp on good things, there will be light in your body. If you focus your lamp on darkness, there will be darkness in your body, right? Just like how that is, when these things clash, it's messy, it's ugly, it's horrible. And that's the experience that I kind of went through in a nutshell. But I came out on the other side, not because of myself, not because of the power that I have as Thandi, but because God saw to it that I would come out the other side by his power, by his plans that he has for me. As Jeremiah it says that I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you, and I always forget, but I'll put it in the description box. Again, the verses that I'm trying to quote that I'm not quite remembering well. But all of this is to say that God saw me through the most horrific periods of my life, and some of the best periods of my life as well, because in this process of rebellion, which I don't recommend, highly do not recommend, if you're in church and you're growing up in church and you're hearing these people testifying, oh, I left the church, stay in the church, stay on, just you don't want to come back and be like, yeah, I came back, I've got a stronger relationship with God, but I'm also carrying more burdens with me that you're supposed to cast to Jesus anyway. But you get what I'm saying. Just keep your own that you've got with you. The cross that you're carrying is enough. Don't go look for bigger timber out there in the wilderness. And yeah, so let me round up. Basically, God did so much for me, I cannot even enunciate enough or properly, or even try it at the moment. I'm struggling to try and express what he did for me. And on the other side, even though I was going through a lot of 15 years in the wilderness, like instability type situation, God still equipped me to be where I am now, to answer a call where I am now, and to be here and to share from the world that is I. But from me, who's also tapping into my source well, which is Jesus, and to kind of share with you and to hopefully inspire you to want to get to know Jesus, inspire you to want to know that there is, that this life is not that all there is to life, but it's almost like an apprenticeship to eternity. And even though there are difficulties that we experience, we don't have to experience them alone. We've got a great supervisor, who's Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and we've got a great CEO, which is God the Father. And their work company culture is amazing. Like, guys, like, no pay, like, eternity is in it. In eternity, there's the promise that Jesus says that there will be no death, there will be no hunger, there will be no sickness. And you're like, okay, cool, that's for eternity. But for now as well, there is provision for now too. And all you have to do is to believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Saviour, and that he can save you from the burdens that you may be carrying. He can save you from the sins and the things and the guilt and the weight of life that is, bogging down your shoulders. That's all you have. All you have to do is believe that and claim that promise in John 3:16, that for God said. Thank you. That for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. If you claim that promise and believe in him, God will now have the authority to intervene in your life. Because remember about that war of good and evil, he will now have the authority to intervene in your life and to take part of your life, and to be with you and to walk with you and to protect you and to there's so many promises that God has given us. But I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, for a hope and it's almost there, but I'll put the Jeremiah text as well in the description. So thank you for watching, if you watched this far, and I hope that you will have been inspired to know that there is more to life than the sadness and the anger and the hopelessness that is there, but there is hope, and that hope is Jesus. Bye.